Welcome to the Know, I'm Ashley Jenkins.
And I'm Gus Sorola.
What is even better than everybody constantly bugging you about Pokemon Go? It's when the entire industry starts making Pokemon Go ripoffs.
Pokemon No! Hot off the heels of Niantic and Nintendo's success with the mobile game that swept the globe, Sony has now announced that it wants its own Pokemon Go and is making aggressive mobile plans as a result.
Hey, those guys make shitloads of money. Why can't we make shitloads of money? That's
Pokemon, yes. Sure, it'll be easy to catch lightning in a bottle. Everybody's done it.
Damn you, Gus. This new word about Sony's mobile ambitions comes from CEO Kaz Hirai. Yes, that is the guy from the, 2006 E3 presentation about the super accurate giant crabs.
Ridge
Racer, who spoke with the Financial Times while attending the IFA Consumer Electronics Expo in Berlin over the weekend. According to him, Sony will be majorly shifting its gaming business model in the near future.
Hirai said of the change for Sony, mobile gaming is something we are aggressively getting into. It's quite a shift from being just a console-based business to being on mobile phones as well.
As for what's spurring them to pursue mobile gaming more aggressively than before, Hirai placed the blame mostly squarely on Pokemon Go, saying, "Pokemon Go is a real game changer. I'm very interested in the fact that it has the potential to really change the way people move. Literally."
We've known since March that Sony has its sights set on mobile gaming. They formed a new division called Forward Works that is mobile focused, but it sounds like Pokemon Go has given the entire company a shot in the arm in terms of their ambitions for what's possible on the platform.
If you've been in a coma or living under a rock or something for the last few months, or I don't know, maybe both, Pokemon Go launched back in July to massive success, capturing the hearts of gamers and non-gamers alike.
In just a few short weeks, it became the most successful mobile launch of all time, gathering somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 million users and generating more than $400 million in revenue in its first 2 months as well. It's a crazy success story that totally came out of nowhere.
Regardless of whether or not Niantic can keep people around to keep making more money, they could walk away now and be totally fine. It's hard for the rest of the industry to ignore that type of pocket change, particularly for those with other recognizable gaming brands that they feel they could leverage really well on mobile.
When it comes to wallets, you gotta catch them all. In addition to Sony, we've also heard reports of Ubisoft eyeing its own AR game, hoping to ride the coattails of Pokemon Go with one of their many lucrative franchises, and there are probably many more planning on trying to capture the same magic as Niantic. Sony just happens to be one of the biggest.
So far, Sony's mobile efforts haven't had a ton of success in generating revenue, according to an analyst quoted by the Financial Times, but most of that is because their efforts have largely been centered on pushing people to buy a PlayStation rather than making money from the apps themselves.
The problem is, even with a shift in strategy for something as massive as the PlayStation brand, Sony's got a number of obstacles standing in its way.
First, there's the matter of the strength of their IP. In many ways, Pokemon Go was the perfect storm of factors all combining to create kind of a Voltron that launched the game to tremendous success, and chief among them was the Pokemon brand itself.
In terms of brand cachet, Sony has next to nothing that matches up with Pokemon pound for pound, but really, who does? I mean, that's not a knock on Sony, it's just a testament to the reach of Pokemon. It's been around
huge.
for 20 years, sold hundreds of millions of copies in its lifetime, now spanning multiple generations.
The combination of a new game coming out this fall, the brand recognition, the franchise's 20th anniversary, all made Pokemon Go into the most perfect entry into the mobile space at exactly the right time.
And just as importantly, in exactly the right way, as a concept, Pokemon lends itself almost perfectly to AR integration. The hunt for Pokemon was an experience that translated easily to the real world in a way that few other properties could also emulate.
In terms of their biggest IPs, Sony does have a wealth of choices, but the problem is all of the biggest sellers that we tend to associate with Sony consoles are owned by third parties. Crash Bandicoot, for instance, is all tied up by Activision.
One of their biggest selling IPs would be the Gran Turismo series, but something tells us combining a racing game with mobile AR has the potential to be about as dangerous as Pokemon Go already is.
Or it's just how people have been playing Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
One of the ones that are left, the reach is hardly there at all. Games like Sly Cooper, Little Big Planet, Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, they've all done really decently in terms of sales for their traditional games, but the most recent attempt at media crossover with the Ratchet and Clank movie, well, it kind of bombed in theaters, so it's hard to argue that the IP could hit it quite as big in the mainstream.
And that's one of the other major problems with the IPs that Sony has left. They're not exactly family friendly either. Most of the franchises we associate with the PlayStation brand these days are games like The Last of Us, Uncharted, God of War, games with decent audiences but nothing family friendly that could generate a smash hit like Pokemon Go, which transcended all age barriers and not much of anything that could translate well to augmented reality.
tough. One of the biggest potential IPs they have in their wheelhouse that could also translate to AR would be none other than, well, Spider-Man, which they hold the film and video game rights to, but it seems like if anybody wanted an app for the web slinger, it'd be Marvel and Disney rather than Sony, probably.
Yep, that's what I would guess. There's also the question of how Sony would integrate this alongside its handheld gaming efforts. If they simply folded the handheld altogether or shuffled their handheld work over to mobile, it wouldn't be much of a question, but some of the latest rumors surrounding tomorrow's PlayStation meeting are that Sony intends to announce a new version of the Vita, so maybe we'll see some clarity as soon as tomorrow.
We might. It would be nice to see some clarity. With an aggressive new interest in mobile, refreshing their handheld efforts, and now starting to court PC gamers, we could be looking at an entirely new Sony with a gaming mindset that goes beyond just the console, which has been their thing for a long time, also beyond.
And it's worked well for them. And judging by the company's recent financial reports, gaming is by far Sony's strongest segment, outclassing every other division in terms of profit. It only makes sense that Sony would start to retool the PlayStation brand to give it more of an all-encompassing gaming focus.
But they probably won't be able to make their own Pokemon Go. We hate to break it to you, Sony, you guys are really awesome, but none of your IPs are Pokemon. Don't worry, you're not alone. A lot of companies are trying to get into that, and they're all gonna break their own hearts thinking they can do it too. Look, Ingress wasn't quite there. And that's what Pokemon Go was built on. It's all about the Pokemon IP, really. That's what enabled it.
What do you guys think of Sony's ambitions to create their own Pokemon Go? What AR games would you like to see from the PlayStation brand? Let us know in the comments.
And for future updates from all the Pokemon Go pretenders out there, like this video and subscribe to The Know. To a tremendous success. I mean, it was huge. It's one of the biggest brands they've got, and chief among, never mind, back it up. Kaden, you have so much material for this.
Is it was it Bailey's?
No, I had, it was.
I'm trying to guess the smell.
Okay, hold on, I guess the smell, right?
I don't know, I stand by Bailey's. What did you have? Maybe vodka?
Okay, there was no Bailey's. There might have been some vodka. I know there was Curacao.
Maybe
and I'm
the
pretty
sweet
sure there
part.
was coconut and rum.
Coconut. Okay, that's it.
It was, whatever it was
Okay,
blue.
that was it.
It was blue. You guys will see. Watch Always Open if you're a first member.